to the Inspire Wealth podcast with Prof, where we dive into the world of real estate investing and wealth building strategies. I'm your host, Mallory Meehan. I'm a real estate professor, attorney, and seasoned investor here to guide you through the ins and outs of creating wealth through real estate. If you're looking to take your real estate knowledge to the next level, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our latest episodes and offerings. Welcome back to another episode of Inspire Wealth. I am your host, Prof, and today I'm joined by the coach himself, Coach Scott Carson. Scott, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Honored to be here. It's been too long, too.
I know,
Lots of things going on here. Congratulations as well to you. We were joking about college football. It's about a month and a half, 2 months away. We're both pretty excited about that, aren't we?
We are. We're probably going to have some banter going on later in the season, I feel.
I think so. Maybe we should put a little, maybe put a little wager on which team does better, something like that.
We'll put a friendly wager on things. I'm down for that.
All right. Cool. Awesome.
All right. So, Scott, I met you years ago now. I think it's been like 2 or 3 years.
Coming on 3 years now.
3 years. Yeah. So I want you to give an introduction about you, kind of how you got into the real estate space, what things you're dealing with, and then we're going to dive right in.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I'm out of Austin, Texas. Home of the 2026 national champion team, the Texas Longhorns, and the MVP, Arch Manning. But anyway, but yeah, no, I'm known across the country as the note guy because I focus on buying and investing in distressed mortgage notes direct from banks and hedge funds. And so for over 15, I've been a real estate investor for over 24 years now. It's hard to believe that. But for the last 15, I focused on this niche of buying this distressed debt directly from banks and hedge funds. And our biggest goal is to buy this distressed debt at a discount because they're non-paying. And there's a lot of people not paying right now. So we're seeing more distress than we've seen in a long time. And we buy that debt not to take on the property. I mean, sometimes we do that, but most of the time, 70% of the time, we're buying that debt and becoming the lender and then trying to work it out with the homeowners through some sort of payment plan, modification, whatever we can do to keep them in the house if we can. Otherwise, we do a liquidation, a short sale, cash for keys. And then, of course, about 30% of the time, you're just going to deal with somebody who doesn't want help and you're going to have to foreclose. And then we can either sell that note at the auction as a foreclosure or take the property back and now we own the real estate. But been doing this for a while, bought over $1 billion in debt on residential and commercial notes. And I'm very fortunate to get started. Probably not too much different from like you, Mallory. You start hanging around with investors and stuff like that. You end up learning a lot of stuff. And so I was very fortunate after a flop as a real estate investor originally back in 2001 and licking my wounds. I started a mortgage company with a buddy of mine. And we got hooked up with a couple investors that were traveling the country, teaching creative financing, teaching note investing, how to buy on terms a lot of times. And, for 4 years, I did this amazing apprenticeship with a guy, Bob Leonetti and Jamie Kayla, who were going around to the Ron LeGrand, workshop. We kind of both come from that tree a little bit with your relationship with Chris Pree. And, when everything hit the fan in 2008, I left the mortgage side and started buying notes direct from banks and hedge funds. And that's what I've been doing ever since then.
Love it. So let's start out with this. So people who are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast have probably heard me talk about, buy and hold, creative financing, other things like that, and, the ownership of real estate. Now, note buying is a little bit different, and I'm sure you have to look at notes a little bit differently than you would look at a property. So let's start at the beginning. How would somebody go about finding some of these note opportunities, and what should they be looking for?
Great question. It's one of the top questions we get all the time. How do you find notes? Well, there is no MLS listing, that's listing your distressed debt, but you could go to a foreclosure list. A foreclosure list is going to be a list of people that aren't paying on their mortgage, right? And you're not going to call the bank's customer service line to say, hey, I want to buy notes. You're not going to walk into your local like Wells Fargo or Bank of America and say, hey, I want to buy your notes. They're going to be like, no, we don't sell. Every bank sells, but Bank of America is going to sell stuff at like a $50 million portfolio. Now, if you can write a $50 million check, we need to log off and we need to talk immediately, all right? Because we've got some deals for you.
Yeah.
But most people aren't going to be able to stroke that kind of thing, I mean, Penn State's probably struck that for a lot of the cupcake teams they played over the years. You know what I mean? To boost their ego, stuff like that. But we'll digress like that. I mean, UT's done that too. Let's just face it. Okay, everybody does that. But anyway,
well, but, you have to build up the confidence early in the
gotta
season.
build
Right?
up the cupcakes. Gotta build.
Like that's all we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. You can't play Ohio University as your win of the only win over Ohio based college football team. But anyway, so what we do is we reach out to banks, and there's specific departments inside of banks that handle this distressed debt. And you can literally jump on LinkedIn. One of our big resources is LinkedIn, and we reach out to people who have the job titles of special asset manager, secondary marketing manager, whole loan traders. You can even look like for note investors. There's a bunch of different Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups that say note investing and stuff like that too for you. And so what happens is when you reach out to the right department at the bank and you say the right things, they send you what's called a tape, which is just an Excel spreadsheet. And it's going to be like 40 columns wide, anywhere from the loan number and the borrower's name and their 12 to 24 months of payment history and all the details of the note, when they last paid, what's the value of the property, that kind of stuff, the details of it. And our goal is to cherry pick it. And, a lot of people, they get caught up in like, hey, it's a property, right? I'm like, no. You're not technically buying the property. You are buying this. This is what you're technically buying. And that's why I always say the pen is mightier than the hammer, because this is a loan file. And this is a non-performing loan file on a property that was in Kankakee, Illinois. They hadn't paid in 2 years. They owed $75,000. Property was maybe only worth about $65 when we bought it back in the day, but they were making a $578 a month payment, right? We bought this note for $25,000. Now they still owed the full amount. And so we reached out to the borrower, got them back on track, and they just started making their $578 a month payment plus a little bit extra. But you ain't got to be a rocket science to say, okay, $578 a month times 12, what's that come to? Oh, about $6,500 and some change, $6,500 on a $25,000 investment. That's a pretty good yield, on that stuff. Now, if they don't pay, then we go the process of foreclosing. And since I'm only into it for 25, this is in Illinois, so it's about $3,500 to foreclose. I'm sitting at, with some other expenses and stuff like that, 30. Well, if I foreclose and sell at the auction for, just say 70 cents of the $70,000 rough value, maybe I might sell for 49. Well, I'm in it at 30. That's a pretty good ROI for it taking me 6 months to foreclose. If I don't, and it doesn't sell, then I now own the property that's worth 80, 85, and I can kind of go from there, in a lot of cases. So that's kind of layman's terms and what we do. We're buying the debt, working it out with a homeowner the best we can. We don't do all the work out ourselves. There's the great thing about this is there's third-party companies called servicing companies that collect the payments, do the borrower outreach. If we have to foreclose, we just kick it to an attorney that's licensed to foreclose in that state and go that route. I'm not going out and having to collect or knock on doors or stuff like that. I mean, I'm buying in about 30 different states at any given time and sending realtors out to give me valuations and condition reports and then pulling title. Because we're really, besides just the property, we're evaluating the borrower, the collateral file that I just showed you, and then also looking at what's on title, making sure it's a first lien. We're not buying second liens or stuff like that. Buying it's a first lien, we have all the right to foreclose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when you are looking at a property, tell me what some of the kind of key things that really pique your interest if you're getting a list, 40 columns wide by a bank. And, what are some of those things that people should be looking for that are going to say this is likely to be a good opportunity?
Let's first talk about what I kill right off the bat. The do nots. Okay,
that's great. Let's start with the do nots.
So I don't look at the properties first. I don't pull them up on Google Maps and fall in love and get what we call OTSC syndrome. Oh, that's so cute. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I want that little property. I'm going to own that apartment. No. I run numbers first. Excel is my best friend. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the first thing to do is I get rid of states like New York, which takes 3 years to foreclose, and not lender friendly. New Jersey, which can take 2 years. I look at the monthly P&I payments as well. Like I don't want to buy something that's under really $250, $300 a month in principal and interest payments, because if it's non-performing, it's going to cost me like $90 to service that. So I'm not going to make hardly any money on that at all. It's going to be worth my time. I prefer to see cash flow in the $500 range or greater, which is what we kind of target, if that makes sense. So
Mhm.
I'll get rid of properties in small little cities I don't recognize where the population's under $50,000 with a stroke of a couple formulas in Excel. And then I also get rid of small balances. If it's like under 20 grand as a balance, unless I've got money in my IRA, I don't really want to spend time with that. Same thing if it's if the value of the property is under like $50,000 for the most part, I don't really want to waste my time with that. So this allows me to narrow down. I get rid of cities like Chicago, which is just horrible to foreclose in, not lender friendly. We call it Chirac, and it's in Crook County. I mean, it literally takes you forever to foreclose there, unless you live there. Kudos. If you don't, stay the hell out of Chicago. Trust me.
Yeah.
And then I look at my like preferred states. Like I like Texas. Texas is a fast foreclosure state. You know, but it's also, since it's fast foreclosure, the banks sell the stuff here at a higher rate because it's a 21-day foreclosure process. You know, fast highways, fast foreclosures, and fast executions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. We kind of narrow the list down. We run some formulas. Okay, occupancy is a big thing too. I prefer occupied assets, and it's more likely for me to get a bar back on track if they're occupied, right?
Mhm.
If it's vacant, I know I'm going to have to do some rehab depending on how long it's been vacant for, you know? So I don't want to have to do a lot of heavy rehabs. I like occupied. And then we also look, besides this spreadsheet, what's the last date of what they call right party contact? When was the last time that either the lender, the servicing company, or the borrower reached out to make contact? You know, if it's been in the last 90 days, then we have a pretty good feel that maybe that we can get that borrower back on track. If they haven't communicated in 6+ months, or they're, you know, we look at the notes in the servicing stuff and see that the borrower, like, hey, go pound sand. You know, you're a Michigan fan. I don't want to talk to you. That kind of stuff. You know, um, you know, I'm buying. I'm a Texas fan. The guy's an Oklahoma Sooner fan. Oh, we're going to foreclose on that guy all day long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but so that's what we look at, and that allows us to narrow it down after we run our formulas. Then we look at it. Okay, what's the property look like? Obviously, if we've got details like bed baths, we like to stick in kind of your, you know, your cookie cutter 2-2s, 3-1s, 3-2s, 4-2, stuff like that. We have a tendency to our best buy box is really that, you know, $50,000 asset up to about $300,000. You know, those are the ones that we're more likely to get back on track with payments. And if the borrower does modify or reinstate, it's going to be a good yield. Anything above that, and if there's equity there, the borrowers are going to usually fight you for that because the equity doesn't belong to you. Since you're only the lender and don't own the property, you're only going off really the legal balance of what's owed. And so once we do that, then we look at photos. And then the number one cardinal law is if you don't want to own that property, never buy a note on a property you don't want to end up owning. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, give me an idea of what people would need to get started in buying notes. Like, what maybe like softwares or what systems, how much cash or equity should they have ready? Like, what does that whole process look like?
So the way we teach is we teach you how to raise capital as well. All right. So a lot of people, you know, they used to think, oh, I need to have $5 million to buy notes. That's not the case at all. 95% of the students that we teach are starting off and using like their IRA funds from their self-directed IRA to buy stuff, or they're using OPM, other people's money to buy notes with, and giving an 8 to 10% to somebody when they're making 20 on a deal. And so it's a win-win across the board there. So let's take the I don't have money out of the picture, because that usually stops most people from doing anything. And don't be wrong, it's good to have some money. You're going to have marketing costs for the most part. In today's world, it's the 21st century in 2025 here. If you don't have a website, you're really not going to pass the smell test. You got to have a LinkedIn profile and talk about what you're doing and be in some sort of real estate investing, because that's the first place banks are going to go, or asset managers. That you need to have a CRM, some sort of email service provider like it's Keep or REI Black Book. I know you and I are both friends with Damon Ramey from over there. That's a great source. Something to communicate on a regular basis that's easier to asset managers at banks or to your investor or warm market. So that's some of the things that you need to have. There are some different servicing softwares. You know, most people are going to use Excel right off the bat, and so it helps to have a little bit of idea how to create a formula in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too fancy. You don't need like be a Jedi master of like VLOOKUP tables or anything like that. But and then just a kind of a knowledge of real estate investing a little bit helps. It always helps to be a lender, because then you understand you're approaching this as a banker's mindset, not a fix and flippers. That's one mistake that we see happening quite a bit. People come from the fix and flip side and they overbid. And I'm like, why are you bidding above the legal balance? Oh, because I want to make an offer at 70 cents of MAO. I'm like, well, maximum allowable offer is great, or ARV is great, but when ARV doesn't exist in the note business. It's all about as is values and going from there. So just getting a good fit and stuff like that. Being willing to ask questions is important. For every note you're going to buy, you're going to want to order a broker price opinion or have a realtor pull comps. You're also going to want to order an updated title report, not a full title report, just like a 2-owner report. So there's going to be some costs along the way to making sure that it's actually a good deal and not a dud. Does that make sense, Mallory?
Yeah. So do you typically see people buying these notes on like a 50 cent on the dollar, 70 cent? Like what's kind of that sweet spot where people are likely to really make a good run at it?
So that's a great question. And it varies state by state, asset by asset, what's going on. Like I'll give you an example. Back in 2008, I was buying condos on Miami Beach for $5 to $10 grand a pop. Wow. Knowing it was going to take me like 18 months to foreclose and the values would rebound back. Everybody was way underwater there. They owed $250,000 on the asset. It was only like $30,000 when I buy the note, but it would double in the 18 months. So that's not the case these days. I wish it was. Don't get me wrong. We still get stuff at really great prices. We got 52 offers approved at 48 cents of the legal balance and at 52% of as is value just the other day that we're working through due diligence on. And then multifamily. I'm looking at a couple apartment complexes that we got bids accepted at somewhere between 75 and 80% of the legal balance. And there's at least 25% equity above what the loan balance was and the value of the property. All right. So somewhere in there, it varies a little bit. It may be closer to 70 cents on the dollar if you figure that out, depending on cash flows. And those can vary quite a bit right now, depending on what we end up seeing in due diligence as far as rent rates and stuff like that. So if you're buying performing notes, let's just make it simple. If you're buying like a performing note, you can probably buy at par. And that's all going to depend on what the interest rate is. Some investors like to buy reperforming notes, and that's a note where somebody wasn't paying for a while. An investor like me came in, bought it, got the borrower back on track, had to make 12 months of on-time payments, and now we're turning around and selling it at 75, 80 cents on the dollar. So it's allowing, depending on the interest rate, the note buyer or the note investor to get a double-digit return on their money without having to do a lot of work, and they still buy it at a discount. I don't like to buy above 70 cents on the dollar for the most part, unless there's just a ton of equity and it's in a fast foreclosure state. Most of our deals, especially on the residential stuff, unless it's just Texas or Georgia, which are the two fastest states, are going to take at least a year to work out, if not 2 years, depending on where you're at in the foreclosure process. I'm going to put a big disclaimer there. You never know what's going to happen, like what happened with COVID, where foreclosures got stopped for like 2 years too. That was a bit of a tricky time with things. But, for the most part, it's not like a 90-day quick flip thing. You're buying, and it takes some time to work it out with the borrower, and then but the nice thing is that the lenders already started for the foreclosure process. You just step into the shoes of that lender and finish it out. If they haven't started, then you got to start it, and then it'll vary state by state on those time frames.
So tell me this: if I were to find a note that I wanted to buy, and I, do my due diligence and run title, check everything. How long does it typically take to then close on that note from that point until the bank were to release it?
So there's not a traditional like closing at a title company with note deals because there's no title being transferred, right?
Right.
So if we're buying a note from a bank, it may be 7 days to 30 days for closings and due diligence. Okay. So like like these 52, I got 60 days of due diligence period. At the end of 60 days, I got 2 weeks to fund. You know what I mean? So we're already raising capital for because out of these 52, 31 of them are basically performing and generating a 19% cash and cash return for the whole portfolio right now. So it's a pretty good deal. I don't have a problem with funding on this one because I'm like, woo, yeah, you know what I mean? But it's 7 days. I mean, we've gotten as long as 6 months before for a big portfolio. But if you're buying a one-off note, if you're happy with the due diligence, you're going to probably fund in 7 days. The important thing, very big important thing here that can put a monkey wrench in the machine is if you're using your self-directed IRA with like Equity Trust or Inspira or something like that, it may take them an additional 7 days to approve your paperwork and send the wire out and stuff like that. If you're using somebody's money and they're moving it to a self-directed IRA account, you really need to be on top of them, making sure that they've pulled money out of their funds, whether it's Schwab, and then it's wired into the IRA account, and that could take it takes 3 days minimum for people to trade out of funds to move into cash before they can wire it out. So that can be about a 2-week period. Just keep that in mind. Disclose that to the seller. Hey, I'm funding this with my IRA money or somebody's IRA. May be a little bit of a delay, and go from there. But most banks, if they've approved it and you're going to fund, they would rather, okay, we'll give you another couple days for this to go through versus canceling the deal and going on and trying to remarket. The other nice thing too, some people are like, oh my God, you made offers on 52. Well, we actually made offers on 79, got 52 accepted. We'll probably close on 30, which is great, but I have no earnest money tied up in this, okay? Mm-hmm. If my bid is accepted, and this is one of the greatest things I've always loved about note investing, I make offers, just, like I do a little bit online due diligence, we make offers. If my offers are accepted, great, then we dive into the deeper due diligence, the paid stuff. If something pops up, value, condition, the collateral file's a mess, the lender's telling me it's a performing note, it's actually a non-performing note. These are all reasons for me to cancel that bid and walk away scot-free, no penalty, stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have the legality of having to have some sort of, cash in hand or, obligation moving forward. So that is awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice that it's not like hiring a head coach and having to pay him 5 years if you fired him in year 2,
Okay, so Scott, let me ask you this. If you were to pick your top states that you are currently buying notes in, what states are you seeing to be kind of like the cream of the crop? Or
okay.
Like the Penn State of the football world? Like which ones are we looking at?
Penn State, cream of the crop. That doesn't equate. It's kind of like military intelligence. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
Well, look, if I was wanting to hire, draft a linebacker, I would go to Penn State U for linebacker U, definitely, and a good running back. Obviously, Quan Barkley is the best running back in the league and was, he deserved the Heisman Trophy when he was there at Penn State. Let's just be honest with that. But anyway, my favorite states right now, and I'm in Texas, all right? I'm in Austin, Texas. People would say, well, Austin, Texas is not in my top 5.
Okay.
Because since it's a fast foreclosure state, we don't see that much inventory. So I want to buy stuff that I can buy in inventory, and it's going to be a good bang for my buck in a lot of cases. So don't be offended. Don't be twitching out. I like Ohio. I like Michigan. I like Indiana. Those are 3 of my favorite states right now because we see the most amount of inventory in there. Ohio is a judicial state, takes about 9 months to foreclose in. But if I'm buying occupied stuff there, I'm usually having great returns there because the property values are lesser than they are in, say, Miami, Ohio is a lot cheaper than Miami, Florida. You know what I mean? Yeah. Michigan, anything outside of like where Eminem's hanging out in 8 Mile Road, I'm pretty good with for the most part.
Outside of Detroit.
Detroit's got some nice areas too, but it's got some crap too. You know what I mean? My first note I bought in Detroit for $500 and flipped it for scrap metal for $1,500 the next day. You know what I mean? Going back. Okay. It was like the Chernobyl aspect of distressed debt originally back in the day. But anyway, Michigan, Indiana, I like the Hoosier State. You can evict in 14 days as well too, and it's got about a 9-month foreclosure process. But the thing is, if I'm buying an occupied asset, I know I can usually ahead of time know if I can get that borrower back on track before I ever buy that note. In a lot of cases, I can't reach out to the borrower, but I buy based on servicing notes and how they've corresponded and what I'm buying it at. I like the states. North Carolina, the Tar Heel state's pretty good. South Carolina is actually a good state as well. South Carolina takes a year to foreclose. South Carolina is also number 4 in the most amount of delinquencies right now.
Oh, wow.
Florida is also Florida. I call it God's waiting room. I mean, I bought a lot of stuff down in the Sunshine State. I'm not liking Florida right now because insurance costs are driving things up. Taxes have doubled. Basically, the last 5 years have doubled increased by 50%. It doesn't mean I don't look there, but like Cape Coral down in Southwest Florida, I owned hundreds of properties down in Southwest Florida back in the day. I think the market's got a ways to fall, and then I'll be back into it because I can buy it at a price that makes sense for me to hold it and ride that wave back up again. But those are kind of the states. A lot of people make the mistake of just targeting like the fastest foreclosure states, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, and that's great. But the banks also know they're the fastest foreclosure states too out there, and so you're going to pay a premium penalty. If I see something in Texas, great. It's a cherry on top of the banana split, but otherwise, I don't. If I just focus on Texas, I wouldn't have been in the note business this long.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Scott, you teach courses
Yep.
on how people can get into this. So I want to understand more about what you're teaching your students, how long it's maybe taking them to kind of ramp up, things that you're seeing like people maybe do wrong, like you said, maybe looking at those foreclosure states, the faster foreclosure states first. Like give me kind of like the overall of what your student population is learning and then executing.
So, biggest thing is we teach stuff that works in today's world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there still marketing like it's 1995 instead of 2025. Okay. When people think about note investing, they often think about buying on terms or buying an owner finance note. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great niche. But buying direct for the banks, I've always liked it because it made more sense for me to get a list from a bank once a month with 100 notes versus sending out 1,000 postcards or letters trying to track down an owner finance seller who might have just one note available. All right. And then there's no emotion with the banks. There's a lot of emotion with dealing with a homeowner or somebody who's bought or sold on owner financing. So we teach how to go direct to the banks. We teach how to find these deals, what to say, what not to say. We teach how to build a list of asset managers, how and when to market to those asset managers. If you're picking up the phone or dropping an email blast or reaching out on LinkedIn, it's all about that multiple touch approach. Look, 80% of sales happens after the fifth contact. That's what you think you have to realize. And I come from a sales background. If you understand that you've got to reach out multiple times to talk to people, you'll have a lot bigger success rate versus like, well, I made 50 phone calls one time and it didn't work. Well, that's one day. That's one touch. You got to realize it's a process. And if you're going to be around for a long time, just systematize your marketing. That's one of the biggest things we teach. It's like how to market smart and effectively in today's world using social media and other things, AI, even that right now. But then we also dive in, okay, how do you do this due diligence? Let's go through some case studies. Let's pull up a new spreadsheet or tape that we got and dive into these and show you how to cut these things up. Slice and dice to find the real meat and the real deals depending on what you want to focus on. And then also how to raise the capital, how to find hundreds and hundreds of IRA investors who've pulled the trigger on rental properties or lent money, and how to find those people by simply going to like the county appraisal districts to pull their names and addresses and then what to say to them to get them to fund your deal as well. So that's all kind of why we call it Note Buying for Dummies, our quarterly workshop that we teach. It's 3 days. Yours truly teaching, not pitch fest or anything like that. It's done online. We do it via Zoom. There we go. And love helping people. I mean, we've got students all across the world, not just here in the United States too. We've got people in Israel and Spain and in England and the Philippines and Australia, mate. Put another non-performing shrimp on the Barbie, please. And and for success, it varies. It completely varies, but we get a lot of students. I mean, we literally show you like, okay, go buy your first home for like less than $25,000. Let's learn more by doing. And there are some websites you can go to look at assets, or there's other lists that we bring in and show you, okay, hey, you can cherry pick this, pay us a $500 or $1,000 fee for helping you broker the deal or buy it and go from there. So my goal is, as somebody asked me the other day, like if there's all this opportunity, why are you sharing it versus trying to hoard it all for yourself? I'm a big believer that there's plenty of opportunities to go around. I come from a, abundance mentality in a lot of cases. And I kick it back to like, there was a time where I was a distressed borrower back in the day in 2002. We bought our first house, bought 2 investment properties traditionally, and I was behind in all 6 mortgages. I was laid off and I was distressed, about as distressed as can be. And my faith got me through that. And I also think God helped me get through that in a lot of cases. So I'm always like, God, if you help me get through this, I guarantee I'll help anybody I can along the way. And that's my biggest thing. There's plenty of deals out there. I can't buy them all. And the reason we started teaching people how to do this niche is just, it's different than going out and buying a property or flipping a property or buying a rental. Much easier, I think, in a lot of cases, a lot more rewarding, because we all worry about return on investment, ROI, but a lot of people forget to think about ROT. That's return on time. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I like. You can do this from anywhere. I've bought notes traveling the world because we rely on teams and third parties to help you out with that. And that's one of the things I like the most about it.
So that brings me to my next question, Scott. How much time would you say somebody needs to have in order to get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that a lot. Probably 95% of our students are still working a full-time job. They're still working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. And they're doing this to help them supplement their income or start building a ladder or a runway so they can leave their job or whatever they're into. So that's the thing. 10 hours a week, that's a couple hours a day, 1 to 2 hours a day looking at assets or marketing, and then going from there and just building the system. So you don't need to put in 40, 50 hours. Don't be wrong. We have some people that are doing that, but that's not, I wouldn't tell you, just quit your job to go do that. No. Let's start you off 10 hours a week. There's some things to look at, things you can do, and we can hold your hand through the rest of the way.
Okay, so if somebody is like, okay, Coach Carson, I want to sign up, I want to learn more about notes, what exactly would you say? So they sign up for your class. Is there like a certain amount of money they should be setting aside for this marketing, for all of these tools that are going to help it, generate these leads and help them get through that? Like what would somebody need to have if they're looking at free cash flow on their side?
So the first thing I would do is don't pay a penny yet. Take our 1-day class. It's a class we call Note Weekend. Basically, it's about a 3-hour class that you can watch. We host it live one Saturday a month. You can always catch the replay. Go watch that. That doesn't cost anything. That'll talk about, I kind of call it the Cliff Notes of our 3-day workshop, but it'll give you an idea. Well, okay, this makes sense. Or I understand this makes sense. Okay, now it helps you dip your toe in the water without having any type of investment. And then you may not like me because I'm a UT fan. I don't care. It's fine. If you don't like me, that's fine. You can learn something and move away. But you'll see if I'm your cup of tea, because I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass or anything. And, I'm going to tell you like it is. This works. This doesn't work. Don't do this. Do this. This is why this works versus that. And then if you're, happy with our Note Weekend, once again, that website's noteweekend.com. Then sign up for a 3-day class. That's going to cost you $500 to $1,000 for that. And then you really need to have, like I said, about $5,000 for marketing on stuff like that. You're going to need an LLC. If you don't have an LLC, you need to go get one. That'll vary state by state a little bit. You're going to need to, eventually buy a CRM like we talked about. That could be, start off with like a free account like MailChimp or pay $97 a month for Black Book REI is a good one. And, if you got $5,000, but if you're completely broke and don't have any money and you're trying to get things done on your prepaid cellular phone, you probably need a job to pay the bills to start off with. But you can broker and wholesale notes just like you broker real estate too. So that's a different facet as well. But you got to understand marketing to do that. So take the class. We'll teach you that. And we offer, I don't think a lot of people, I know Chris does because he's, solid. But if you're going to sign up for a class of ours at the end of the first day, like, I don't like this is not for me, I refund people's money back, no questions asked. I don't want to spend your money. I don't want your money. We want you to be a smarty and a note investor for the simple reason that'll help you buy assets from us. Or when you become a note investor and start getting tapes and listen to you that you can't dig down, hopefully you pick up the phone and call me or Mallory to buy those notes. And that's the whole reason we do what we do.
No, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I'm all about education first. And, once you're informed, that's when you take the action, which is, another reason why I started this podcast is to try to get the education out to people. Okay, so Scott, I take your course and I'm having a second baby. I have no time to go out and find all of these things. Is there a way that people can invest in deals that you find so that it's more of a streamline where they're like, look, I got capital, but I just don't want to put in the time. What do you got for me?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things where you can invest alongside us. Depending on what you put together, will depend on the preferred rate that we give it. We also have a program for folks that have got some money sitting in an IRA and they want to put it to work passively and stuff like that. We can go find them a note deal to put in that IRA. They pay us a little fee and go from there. So we got a couple different opportunities. And one of the things that we always do for folks that are buying their first note, stuff like that, if something happens along the way, you can pick up the phone and give me a phone call and we'll help assist you along the way. We had a investor buddy of ours out of Houston had a portfolio of 12 notes. And unfortunately, he just passed recently, and his wife didn't know what's going on with the portfolio. And so we're helping assist her. First of all, like, okay, let's get these transferred over to you. If you need them moved, helping kind of hold her hand through this process, so that she's just not getting fleeced selling it at 20 cents of the dollar. Like, no, this is a good deal. Sell it at 70, 75, or if you want to dump it, this would make the 1 cent to dump if you need quick cash, to pay some bills and hold the rest for cash flow. So, I always encourage you. If you got questions, you can always book a call with me at talkwithscottcarson.com. That's literally my calendar. Go there, pick a phone call, pick my brain for 30 seconds. That's the fleeting hopes of Penn State, after week 1. But anyway, or 30 minutes with me, you know what I mean? 30 minutes at talkwithscottcarson.com. So.
Got it. That's great. All right, Scott. So if you could sum everything up about note buying and why people should take the move to learn more about it, take your weekend, course, take your 3-day course, like what would you say is kind of like the main reason that drives a lot of people to getting into note investing versus maybe like the active real estate investing?
So here's the thing. The bank always gets paid. When you buy notes, you become the bank. You're literally on the sexy side of real estate. And, I talk to a lot of fix and flippers who are holding rentals, hoping they get a $200 to $300 a month cash flow basis. That's way too skinny for me. And doing all that work and property management sucks. No. I don't want to do that much work. And everybody always says like, it always seems that the older investors have been around for all end up becoming the lender. They all become note investing, whether they're lending their own money or they're buying notes and creating cash. Because that's what it all comes down to. Cash flow, not appreciation. I mean, that's great, but it's all about cash flow. And this is a cash flow business. That's why the banks are always the biggest, tallest buildings out there. They understand that, and you can do the same thing too. And you don't need millions of dollars to get started. If this Ingledink from Ingleside can do it, you guys can do it as well. All right. Even if you are a Penn State football fan, I'm sorry.
Oh
yes.
My God. To begin with this. I can't wait to win this bet that I'm going to have with you. And I could just say, Scott, suck it.
let's do this. Let's talk about this because this is important. We got a few minutes left here.
We want it recorded so that everybody.
It is recorded. So I know that you've got a little bundle on the way. Do you have a favorite libation that you like? Wine, whiskey, crack cocaine? Probably not. But anyway, anything that you like, your poison?
So I would say my go-to is typically tequila.
Okay.
That would be like, I love margaritas. I also like champagne and mimosas. So that would be my second. What about you? What's your vice?
I'm a whiskey kind of guy. We've got a lot of great Texas.
So I got that. Okay.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Why don't we say the team that has the better outcome for the year? Mm-hmm. Okay. Not who ends up higher ranked at the end of the year. Okay. Penn State or Texas. And the loser buys the winner a $100 bottle of either tequila or whiskey. Something unique or something like. You like that? Easy?
Yeah, I like it.
Work all right? Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Done. Yep. Right here, baby. So,
right here.
I will make sure and send you. We want some good, Crown Royal Reserve or even like some Blanton's. You know what I mean? Yeah, Blanton's pretty good.
Some right there. I see it. We got some Woodford up here. And
Woodford's good. There you go.
My husband, for his bachelor party, went to Kentucky and he went to the Derby and they did some of those like bourbon trails and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really fun time.
So he'll be able to find I don't think I'll need to, but if that.
Yeah, I would say, if it was champagne, I mean, Don Perignon, or 1492, I think is a better tequila than Don Julio. Actually, it was Patron's. John DeJourno was actually his banker back in college here in Austin, Texas.
Way.
Yeah. He would bring me a bottle of Patron for Christmas for the 3 years I worked at Chase Bank because he would come in and deal with it, and we always took care of him. So it was kind of a cool thing. But you heard it here, guys. We'll make sure and keep this bet running. Yes. Are there preseason polls out already yet for college football?
Yes, there are.
Oh, so where is it in? Let's see. College football preseason rankings. Okay, let's see here. not power rankings. Where is the rankings 25, 26? Okay. So, let's see. Oregon's ranked number 1, Oregon, Georgia. Texas is at number 3. Well, that's playoff rankings. Top 25. Texas is number 4, and Penn State is number 5. Oh,
Ooh,
so we're right
we're
there. AP top
right
25.
there. Yeah.
We are right
So
there.
it's gonna be a good season.
Yes, it is. I think both teams will have a phenomenal year. Unfortunately, our team, I think, is just going to have a little bit better season, but we'll see. Are you going to be in? Are you going to be in Boston here in a month or so?
No, I'm not gonna be able to travel from here on out, just given this status.
I can understand that. That's all right though, but that's just
Yeah.
good stuff. So we'll have to do another episode
We'll have to
when
do
the
another
season's
one.
over.
Yeah. Yep.
And do that there for you. And if you ever need, if you need a guest professor to teach about notes during your real estate class or something like that,
Hey, I might put you
I will.
on the horn for, when I need to be out in November. Like, we can do a live one, we could do a recording one. This is
I
the
am,
kind of stuff that I want my students to learn.
and we could talk about investing and getting started. I mean, you've probably already done that, but there's a whole variety of things: raising capital, ways to find capital, all sorts of good stuff for folks out there. But you're so honored to be here. And if you're listening to this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, which I know you are, because Mallory's kicking ass and taking names, okay? Make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you go leave a 5-star review for her. All right. We as podcasters love to see that. And so make sure you go do that as your one action to help out support her here today. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for that. All right, Scott, it's been a pleasure. We will definitely have a follow-up with this. And I'm going to start putting out my recommended tequilas and champagnes that I want you to send me come January.
There we go. And we might need to meet somewhere in the middle to enjoy them. That might be something to think about
100%.
too.
That whatever it is, that's exactly what we'll have to do.
We took 125 people to Napa one time and had champagne or sparkling wine tasting on Domaine Carneris's wine tasting thing in Napa. Might need to check that out for you.
Ooh.
Of course, that's a pretty cool thing we've done in the past, but we're going to be drinking bourbon, so maybe somewhere back in the bourbon trail.
Yeah, you want to go.
This is good stuff. Thank you so much for having me on, Mel. It's been a pleasure as always. Great stuff. Congratulations again.
Thank you. Okay, guys, that wraps up another episode of Inspire Wealth. Like Coach Carson said, subscribe, give us a review, 5 stars. I would love to hear if there are topics that you're interested in learning more about. And again, this is the Inspire Wealth Podcast. Prof M out. And for those who want a more hands-on learning experience, check out our online courses at inspirewealtheducation.com. Whether you're just starting out or looking to expand your investment portfolio, I've created step-by-step guides and resources to help you achieve your financial goals. So hit that subscribe button and let's start building your wealth one episode at a time.